thank you to FRH for giving me the chance to share with you some reflections on the challenges that religious heritage is facing today. My name is Silvia, and I come from the University of Girona. As you can see in this image, the University of Girona is based in a former monastery. This monastery was in the 13th century, and it expropriated in the 19th century. And in the 80s, it became the university. And this was the first university that offered public studies in tourism in Spain and the first faculty of tourism in Spain. So in our faculty, we, apart from teaching, we do research, and we have a research line on religious heritage and religious tourism. In my PhD was about religious tourism and sacred sites, and we have several students developing PhD on pilgrimage, religious tourism, intangible religious heritage. So we continue working on this line, and we work together with our local stakeholders, with our bishoprics, with our monasteries, and we have developed several research projects with them. So what we are going to explain you today and what we are going to present is based on a case study, and in this case, based on the example of Montserrat, that we have decided to take this example to reflect on the challenges heritage is facing today. But before going to the case study, just a few considerations on the situation. If you have seen before the COVID map that Henri has presented, maybe you have noticed that the area is especially red. So we are now in a very difficult situation. Yesterday, we reached a million cases of infected by COVID-19. So it's a hard situation. In this situation, religious heritage preservation, as you can see here, is paid by religious communities. But normally, the state used to help by giving some grants or some funding in order to preserve heritage, especially the buildings that are considered as national heritage buildings. But apart from this, many of these religious buildings received also alternative funding that may come from associations, donations, or tourism. So tourism for us is especially important in this sense. Spanish economy is highly dependent on tourism. 2019, the 12% of the GDP came from tourism, meaning accommodation, transport, restaurants, especially in some areas like the Mediterranean area or the Balearic Islands. The percentage can reach 16–17% of the GDP coming from tourism. So if we don't have tourism, we don't have money. And we don't have money even for preservation of religious, even funding or for these helps that normally the state offered for preserving religious heritage. So let's see what happens or what is happening in these sites today. So we have decided to explain you through an example. In this case, the example is Montserrat. Montserrat, you have an image here. As you can see, is a mountain because it's placed in a natural park. So the mountains that you can see here, they were declared natural park and also by the UNESCO. It's a sanctuary because there is an important shrine. We have a Black Madonna here, and this Black Madonna is the patron saint of Catalonia. So they receive a lot of national visitors, and it's a monastery. We have a monk community in this site. It's a community composed by 60 monks already, so it's quite big if we compare it to other communities, monk communities in Spain. Montserrat doesn't receive any grant or any economic help from the state, so all the incomes that they receive to maintain and sustain the community, the heritage, the building, and so on, come from tourism. Montserrat received 2.5 million tourists per year in a normal year, not this year, but 2019, for example, it was 2.5 million visitors. So you can imagine the importance. It's not only for Montserrat. If you think about La Sagrada Familia, about many religious sites in Barcelona, about several cathedrals like the ones in Girona, in other places, they face similar situations regarding tourism. So let's see some of the challenges. The first challenge that they are facing is related to religious services, to cult services. So how to deal? It was mentioned before as well, how to deal with these new measures regarding safety, how to deal with masks, how to deal with having these hydroalcoholic gels, for example, or how to clean, and how to maintain capacity in this case. Because apart from social distance, one of the measures that has been implemented not only here, but all around, is that the carrying capacity has been lowered down. So most of these places now, they are only allowed to receive half of the visitors that they used to receive. So for example, in the case of Montserrat or other buildings like the Cathedral of Barcelona or La Sagrada Familia, one of the challenges is how to keep within the limits. And if you remember the picture that you have seen in the case of Montserrat, if you drive for half an hour on a steep road and then you arrive at the monastery and you find that you cannot enter because the church is already empty and you cannot go to mass, maybe you may be disappointed. So for example, in Montserrat, they decided to apply an online reservation system. The picture that you have here is from a local newspaper. And I have translated it says out of online reservation for the conventual mass the day they enter in service. It means that this works because many people just booked for going to the mass, okay, on Sunday. But what happens that we may have, especially people that are not used to online or digital technologies, and they are not used to book for going to mass. So we have to make sure that all these measures don't leave behind people and that they can be allowed also to participate. So there are some reflections that I want to share with you, but so it may work, but maybe not for anybody. Another challenge that we face is regarding accessibility and regarding heritage accessibility. So one of the situations that we face in regarding religious heritage is that we have some religious buildings that are in function, that are in use, but there are others that also are part of cultural offer, so that they are cultural attractions and people go there for visiting, not only for attending religious services, but for participating and visiting the sites. So it's the same, how we keep, for example, our open hours, for example, every day if we have less visitors. There are many rural churches, for example, that they are even that they are not open regularly. One of the things that happened this summer is that many people decided not to go to the beach because they considered that it was not safe. So they decided to go to rural areas. So many people on holidays meet in rural areas expecting not to meet anybody, when in fact they were overcrowded areas. And many small churches and religious buildings were or overcrowded or closed. So we have this challenge also on how to manage accessibility on those sites. A third challenge is related to living heritage. As I already said, in Montserrat, we have this monk community. The community develops several tasks apart from the religious ones. So for example, they research, they study, they do handcrafts. So all these activities should be sustained, and normally they were sustained thanks to the tourist activity, and now they don't have these incomes. Apart from this, you can see in the image this choir in Montserrat. They have one of the oldest choirs in Europe. They are boys. And this is an intern school. So boys stay in Montserrat. They learn the same as other children in the schools, but also they have a specific on music. What happened? That during the pandemic, schools were closed. So this was closed as well. So there were no choir. And now in September, they reopened to reopen, but they have to wear masks. So they have to sing wearing the masks. So again, we were saying, no, what happens with all of this? Because the sound is not the same, and it's really hard and it's really difficult to manage all this. And this is an intangible heritage that should be also preserved somehow. The fourth challenge is about heritage conservation and preservation. And it's clear, if we don't have incomes coming from tourism or from other parts, we are not allowed to maintain this. Here you have an image of Santa Cecilia. Is a small church 4 kilometers from Montserrat, and it's run also by the community of Montserrat. And here they have an art and spirituality institute, and they have some works, some masterpieces from Sean Scully. Sean Scully is an important contemporary artist. So in order to maintain the paint they have here, they need a constant temperature and they need specific lights. So they have to pay for this, even they don't have visitors. So the same happens in other churches. They may have works from the 12th century, 13th century, fresco paintings. They have to maintain this. So this is an important challenge as well. And for example, during the lockdown, many of the sites didn't have the works that normally had delayed preservation because everyone was obliged to stay at home. So nobody was looking after the heritage. So this is important also to keep in mind. And the last challenge we identified is, we call it knowledge. Maybe it could be no, it's related. So for example, in Montserrat, the same as in other places, they were really active in participating in conferences, in seminars, sharing knowledge, and also doing trainings. For example, together with the monastery of Montserrat, our faculty organized trainings for tour guides in order to teach them or to show them how to explain Montserrat and how to promote the religious values of the site. So if we don't have money to the community, we don't have money to maintain heritage, we are not going to have money for this kind of activities. So for example, the next course that was initially in January has been canceled. From this, because people is just waiting in order to see what's going to happen. So they are not going to engage in trainings and these types of things. So this is something that also should be kept in mind, that we have to try to work also to maintain this, or at least to try to maintain some of these activities. Because I think that the question that many religious sites, at least locally here in Catalonia, is facing is how to survive. And when I say how to survive, I mean how to maintain local employees, how to maintain the buildings open, how to maintain the buildings clean, how to preserve them. You have an image here. The image was taken in April, last April, in Montserrat. You can see for the sunlight that it's midday. This is impossible to imagine. Montserrat at midday with no people outside, because normally you're going to find someone walking up or down the stairs or entering the basilica. So in this case, when we think about these economies that are dependent on visitors, both national and international, they are facing several challenges that may bring them up to the line, and it's really difficult to imagine, for example, for them how are going to maintain and to keep all these activities with it if this situation takes time than what was expected. So I think that as academics we can help, but it's not enough to help or it's not enough with our help, and we should try all together to help and try to maintain this heritage. Thank you very much. If you have any question, I will be happy to answer then. Thank you.